Thank you, Acting Speaker. I'm happy to stand and speak to this motion that this House condemns the Shadow Minister for Equality for allowing his shadow colleagues to sponsor a petition attacking LGBTQIA+ people and calling for the cessation of the Rainbow Libraries Toolkit. Actually, I'm not happy to stand and talk about this motion because I can't believe that in 2025 in Australia this sort of ignorance, fear-mongering, stupidity, immaturity, intolerance still exists, is still going on, is still being talked about and is still being encouraged, is still considered acceptable. I'm flabbergasted, I'm disappointed, I'm angry, I'm outraged, and most of all, I'm sad. I'm sad for those people that fear other people who are a bit different. I'm sad for those people that are so scared about their own selves that they have to take it out on other people who are a little bit different. I'm sad that we have people in government and people in positions of power that feel that taking those people that are slightly different to them, taking away their power or their identity is going to make them feel better, feel safer, feel smarter, feel superior, feel more. I'm sad that in 2025 we're still burning books and witches at the stake, well, figuratively and also literally, that mindset still exists and thrives in some people's hearts and minds. Now, I do understand what it feels like to be seen as being that person who was a little bit different and therefore not understood and misunderstood by people. And often when people fear things, their instinct is to want to destroy it. Now, as a young dancer, people were afraid of me because they thought I was gay. Actually, they were afraid of themselves, Acting Speaker. But because I must be gay, they wanted to beat me up, and indeed I did get beaten up a couple of times. I remember many nights coming home from ballet classes and waiting for the 6:25 bus in Fremantle to take me home to Coolbellup. I'd be on high alert because there would be a souped-up Tirana, normally yellow, doing circuits around all the bus stops in Fremantle, looking for someone that those people in the car perceived to be different to them. They wanted to beat them up. And as the car would come round the corner, I would quickly run up the mall and hide behind some trees, and I'd hear the car stop. They'd wait for a while, they couldn't see anyone, and so they would drive off. I would come out of my hiding place and I would run back to the bus stop, and I would hope like heck that the bus would come before the car came around again. I wasn't the problem, Acting Speaker. The fact I was a bit different to them wasn't the problem. They didn't even know I was a ballet dancer. They were the problem. Their ignorance, their fear, their need to shrink their world so that it fitted in their naive, angry, small-minded world, so somehow they could feel safe and they could feel valued and honoured. But shrinking the world and making others feel worthless only damages humanity, our community, and our own selves. And this idea that the Shadow Minister for Equality and his shadow colleagues could sponsor a petition attacking the LGBTQIA+ community and call for the cessation of Rainbow Libraries Toolkit is exactly that. I love books. Books are a window into the soul. I love stories. As a performer, I've been a storyteller all my life. As I said in my inaugural speech, stories are what nourish us. They feed the soul, the body and mind. They do this whether you tell them through dance or acting or a dish you cook and serve to loved ones, friends or strangers. Stories give us inspiration and they give us hope. Why does the Shadow Minister of Equality want to rip hope away from one group of people and not another? Why is the Shadow Minister of Equality supporting his shadow colleagues in attacking a group of people that are just a little bit different to them? A group of people that laugh the same, cry the same, bleed the same as him, and indeed the same as me and the same as every other person in this chamber. I'm talking about humanity. I don't really see people as being different. We are all equal in our own imperfect, weird way. And that is something to rejoice, not fear. This is what makes the world go around. Fear builds nothing, it only destroys. Embracing our uniqueness, Our differences, our diversity builds things. It builds and strengthens our community, our understanding of each other, our tolerance to our differences. It strengthens our curiosity, our considered nature, our desire to listen, to learn, to be inclusive. It creates our capacity to unconditionally love one another, a concept perhaps not shared by those that wish to attack those that are different to them. What we're also talking about is the shadow minister for equality and his shadow colleagues, figuratively, is that they're marching into a library and dictating to staff and customers, to mums, dads, to grandpas, grandmas, to kids, what they can and can't do, what they can and can't read. This is outrageous.
It really is.
One of my favourite books I read many, many years ago was Fahrenheit 451.
Oh, great.
The novel explores themes like conformity, individuality, and the power of information, and has been seen as controversial by some, particularly by those who are concerned about challenging society norms. It tells the story of Guy Montag and his transformation from a book-burning fireman to a book-reading rebel. Montag lives in an oppressive society that attempts to eliminate all sources of complexity, contradiction, and confusion to ensure uncomplicated happiness for all its citizens. If the Shadow Minister for Equality thinks that banning rainbow library toolkits, and in doing so wants to control the books boys and girls, mums and dads, adults can read, is going to ensure uncomplicated happiness for all of his constituents, then he and his colleagues have completely lost the plot. I am pretty tired of watching the LGBTQIA+ community being bashed. I've watched it for years. And I said in my inaugural speech, I was part of the queer community, even though I didn't know I was part of the queer community because we didn't call it that. The 70s and 80s were a very difficult time for the queer community, and they were brutal times. Now, sometime in the 80s, and I can't remember exactly when, a very good family friend of mine, a very good family friend and best mate of my brother's, fellow actor, dancer, performer, was brutally bashed in Oxford Street on a lovely summer's evening by three men. Carrot was his nickname because he had a mop of red hair and freckles. He was a very beautiful, caring young man, naive and innocent, and had the world ahead of him. He was bashed to death on that street by those three brutes because they thought he was gay. Whether he was or wasn't doesn't matter. They killed him because of their ignorance, their fear of people who are different. And this is what happens when you start to attack minority groups or people who are different. You give others permission to do the same. Yes, the 70s and 80s were brutal. Carrot wasn't the first or last. So it was great to finally see the 90s that queer people, LGBTQIA+ people were starting to be recognised and accepted as humans, as people who are different, but who were beginning to be accepted as part of the fabric of our community. Sorry, Acting Speaker, I went a little bit heavy then, but I don't suggest that banning the rainbow kits is going to incite this kind of thing. But I would like to think that the 70s and 80s are well and truly behind us. But you can look around some countries and sadly they are not. We are supposed to be leaders in this place. We are supposed to be leaders in our communities. And so I would ask the Shadow Minister for Equality to stand up and be a leader for equality. I would ask that the Shadow Ministers who support this petition stand up and be leaders. Be leaders for equality, not fear, not hate. Libraries are a safe space. They hold knowledge that gives inspiration, books that give opportunity and bring joy to those that hold them and embrace them. Libraries are not a battleground for ignorance and fear. Libraries are where knowledge, freedom of expression and love for all things should be nurtured and grown. I condemn the action the Shadow Minister for Equality is enabling, and I ask that he be a leader for equality, not fear.